The ground beneath you feels unstable. The air you breathe is thick with uncertainty and fear. You might be facing a diagnosis that has stolen your future. Perhaps a relationship has fractured, leaving a void where there once was love. Maybe your job, your security, has vanished overnight. The storm you are in is real, and it is raging. It feels like you are all alone in a boat, tossed by waves that threaten to swallow you whole. The darkness is so complete that you can't see the horizon. You cannot remember what the sun feels like on your skin. This is your reality right now, and it is heavy. Your heart aches with a pain that words cannot fully capture. Sleep offers no escape, and waking brings a fresh wave of anxiety. You look in the mirror and see a stranger, someone whose eyes are filled with exhaustion and sorrow. You ask questions that have no easy answers. Why is this happening? Where did I go wrong? Will this ever end? The silence that follows these questions can be deafening, making you feel even more isolated. Friends and family may offer comfort, but they cannot truly understand the depth of your struggle. They stand on the shore while you are lost at sea. It is a lonely place to be. This trial is more than just a difficult season. It feels like the end of everything you have ever known. It has stripped away your sense of control and left you feeling vulnerable and exposed. The future you once planned with such hope has been replaced by a landscape of doubt and despair. You find yourself questioning everything, including your own strength to continue. The world keeps moving on, but you are stuck, frozen in this moment of crisis. The weight of it all is crushing, and it feels impossible to imagine a day when this pain will not be the first thing you feel when you wake up. Let me say this to you directly. Your pain is valid. Your fear is understood. Your struggle is not being dismissed or minimized. There is no simple platitude that can make it all go away. But I want you to hear this one truth and let it sink deep into your soul. You will get through this. It may not feel like it now. It may seem like an impossible promise. But the storm will not last forever. The waves will eventually calm. The darkness will give way to the dawn. You are in the middle of the story, not at the end of it. As you stand in the heart of your personal hurricane, it is easy to believe that no one has ever faced a trial quite like this. It feels unique to you, a custom-made crisis designed to test your every limit. But I want to take you on a journey. We are going to look back through the pages of time to the ancient stories of the Bible. We will meet people who walked through fires far hotter than you can imagine. We will see men and women who were betrayed, abandoned, and left for dead. Their stories are not just old tales, they are roadmaps of survival. They are proof that others have stood where you stand now. These are not stories of perfect people with unshakable faith. They are stories of real humans. They were people who felt fear, who cried out in anger, and who questioned God in their darkest hours. You are not the first to feel this way. Their experiences echo across the centuries and land right here in your present moment. The names and places may be different, but the feelings are the same. The betrayal, the loss, the fear, the doubt. These are universal threads of the human experience. By looking at how they navigated their trials, we can find wisdom and courage for our own. Their stories remind us that we are part of a much larger narrative of struggle and redemption. You are not alone in this fight. You are walking a path that has been walked before, and those who walked it have left signs of hope for you to find. Joseph, Jacob's favored son, was a dreamer. His special coat symbolized his father's love, fueling his brother's jealousy. Sent to check on them, Joseph approached, unaware of their hatred. They seized him, stripping his coat and throwing him into a pit. As Joseph sat in darkness, his brothers ate, then sold him to traders heading to Egypt for 20 pieces of silver. They dipped his coat in goat's blood and presented it to Jacob as proof of Joseph's death. Thus began Joseph's journey into the unknown. As a slave in Egypt, Joseph found himself in the house of Potiphar, a high-ranking official. Despite his circumstances, Joseph worked hard with diligence and honesty. God was with him, and Potiphar saw that everything Joseph touched prospered, promoting him to oversee his entire household. But Joseph's trials were far from over. When Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, Joseph refused, honoring God and his master. Falsely accused, Joseph was thrown into the royal prison. Yet even in this dark place, Joseph's character shone through. The warden recognized his qualities and put him in charge of the other prisoners. This prison was a training ground for the future God had planned for him. Years passed in prison. Joseph held on. Opportunity came through Pharaoh's servants, the cupbearer and baker, troubled by dreams. Joseph offered to interpret, crediting God. He predicted the cupbearer's restoration and the baker's execution, which happened as he said. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him, but he forgot. 2 years passed. Then Pharaoh had dreams no one could interpret. The cupbearer remembered Joseph. Joseph was summoned. Before Pharaoh he interpreted the dreams as 7 years of abundance followed by 7 of famine. Joseph credited God and offered a solution: store food during the good years. Pharaoh and his officials were astounded by Joseph's wisdom. He appointed Joseph to carry out the plan, making him the second most powerful man in Egypt. Pharaoh gave Joseph his signet ring, fine robes, and a gold chain. For 7 years Joseph stored immense quantities of grain. Then the famine began, severe in all lands. People came to Egypt to buy grain, thanks to Joseph's foresight. One day, Joseph's brothers came to buy food. Joseph recognized them, the ones who had sold him into slavery. They bowed before him, fulfilling his dream. Joseph revealed himself, offering comfort instead of condemnation. "It was not you who sent me here, but God to save your lives." God had woven their betrayal into a tapestry of salvation. The pain had a purpose: to get him to the palace and save the world. Let's consider Job, whose story differs from Joseph's. Job, from the land of Uz, was blameless, upright, feared God, and shunned evil. He was a good man, a model of faith, incredibly blessed with wealth, a large family, and vast livestock. He had everything: family, wealth, and a stellar reputation. Job was a diligent spiritual leader, offering sacrifices for his children, showing his deep devotion. His story is troubling because he did everything right, yet the storm came anyway. This man's life tests the belief that bad things only happen to bad people, forcing us to ask, why do terrible things happen to good people? The scene shifts to the heavens, beyond our sight. Among the sons of God comes Satan, the accuser. God points out Job, highlighting his character. There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Satan scoffs, questioning Job's motives. Does Job fear God for nothing? He argues Job's faith is transactional, based on God's blessings and protection. Satan wagers that if God removes these blessings, Job will curse him. God permits Satan to test this, removing the hedge of protection, but forbidding harm to Job himself. Unaware, Job continues his faithful life as destruction is unleashed. Swiftly, relentlessly, catastrophe strikes. Messengers arrive with news of stolen livestock, murdered servants, and devastating storms. His entire fortune is wiped out in minutes. The final blow arrives. Job's children were feasting when a windstorm collapsed the house, killing them all. In a moment, Job loses his wealth, his legacy, his children. The pain is absolute. Job tears his robe, shaves his head, and falls to the ground in worship. He says, "The Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." Satan argues Job only held his faith because his body was untouched. God allows Satan to afflict Job's body, but not take his life. Job is struck with painful sores. He sits in ashes, scraping his wounds. 3 friends arrive to comfort him. For 7 days they sit in silence, seeing his suffering is too great for words. But then, they speak, insisting Job must have sinned. Their words become instruments of torture. Job's friends believed suffering meant he had done wrong. They urged him to confess, claiming God was punishing him less than he deserved. Job wrestled with God, maintaining his innocence, and demanding answers. God remained silent for 37 chapters, testing Job's faith. Then God spoke from a whirlwind, not with answers but with questions. He questioned Job about the earth's foundation, the stars, and the sea. God reminded Job of his immense power and wisdom, revealing a sovereign plan far beyond human understanding. Moses' journey began not as a leader, but as a fugitive, an exile from Egypt after killing an oppressor in a moment of rage. For 40 years he lived quietly as a shepherd in Midian, his past as a prince forgotten. One day, while tending sheep near Horeb, he encountered a bush that burned but was not consumed. Drawn by curiosity, Moses approached, and heard God call his name from the flames. God declared he had seen his people suffering in Egypt and was sending Moses to deliver them. Overwhelmed, Moses protested, "Who am I to do this?" He saw only his failures and inadequacy. Yet in that moment, God called the forgotten shepherd to lead a nation. Moses argued with God, offering excuse after excuse, doubting himself, doubting the people, even doubting God's name. God answered with signs: a staff turned to a snake, a healed hand, and the promise of his presence. Still, Moses pleaded, "I am slow of speech, please send someone else." God appointed Aaron as his spokesman, and together they confronted Pharaoh. "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart hardened. He increased the Israelites' burdens. The people blamed Moses for their suffering. His first act of leadership seemed a failure. The true test of endurance had only begun. Freedom brought new trials, scarcity, fear, and endless complaints. The Israelites grumbled at every hardship, longing for Egypt's comforts and blaming Moses for their struggles. He interceded for them, and God provided water and manna, but their trust was fleeting. At Sinai, while Moses received the law, the people built a golden calf, breaking faith before the covenant was even delivered. Moses shattered the tablets in anger and pleaded for mercy on their behalf. Leading a rebellious people was a lonely, exhausting burden. Moses' endurance was tested not just by enemies but by those he led. Moses' own failures marked his journey, most notably at Meribah, where anger led him to disobey God's command. For this, he was barred from entering the Promised Land. After decades of sacrifice, he saw the land from Mount Nebo but could not cross over. His story is not one of perfection, but of perseverance despite flaws. He led his people to the edge of their destiny. Success for Moses was faithful endurance, not a flawless record. In Gethsemane, Jesus faced the ultimate trial, embracing suffering with full knowledge of its cost. Overwhelmed with sorrow, he prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me." He pleaded 3 times yet surrendered, "Not as I will, but as you will." His friends slept while he agonized alone. Jesus' endurance was not stoic but honest and vulnerable. He chose obedience, accepting pain for a greater purpose. In his surrender, he redefined endurance. Not as grim determination but as trust and love. The path of suffering became the path of redemption. Just as Jesus finished praying, the garden's tranquility was shattered by a crowd, led by Judas, one of his own 12 disciples. Judas identified Jesus with a kiss, a sign of treachery. Jesus did not resist and allowed himself to be arrested. He was dragged from one sham trial to another through the night. They brought forward false witnesses, but their stories were inconsistent. Through all the lies and accusations, Jesus remained silent. Finally, the high priest put him under oath. "Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God." "You have said so," he replied. They condemned him for blasphemy and mocked him. Then they took him to Pilate, the Roman governor. The crowd screamed for Jesus to be crucified. Jesus was then flogged and handed over to be crucified. The trial was a mockery of justice. The journey to the cross was an ordeal. The Roman soldiers mocked Jesus, placing a crown of thorns on his head. They forced him to carry his own cross through Jerusalem. They brought him to Golgotha, the place of the skull, and nailed him to the cross between 2 criminals. Below, the soldiers gambled for his clothes as people hurled insults. He prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Then darkness covered the land. Jesus cried out, "Father, into your hands I entrust my spirit." And having said this, he died. The trial was over. The debt was paid. You may be standing at your own crossroads right now, facing a crisis that threatens to overwhelm you. The pain is personal. The questions are real. The tears are yours. But just as God met each of these biblical figures in their lowest moments, He is present with you now. He does not promise an easy way out. He does not promise that the suffering will make sense right away. But He does promise that you will never walk through the fire alone. Your story is being written, 1 page at a time, and it is not over yet. Take a moment to breathe. Hear the quiet whisper of hope that runs through the centuries. Your struggles, your doubts, your perseverance, they matter. You do not have to be a hero. You do not have to have all the answers. You only need to take the next step, however small. Trust that God can turn even the greatest trials into powerful testimonies of endurance, faith, and redemption. Reach out if you need help. Speak honestly about your pain. Let others walk with you, and when the words run out, let the prayers of others carry you. Sometimes the greatest act of faith is simply to keep breathing, to keep waiting, to keep hoping for the dawn. Your trial is not a sentence, it is a chapter. There is more ahead, even if you cannot see it now. God is not finished with you. You will get through this. Not because you are unbreakable, but because you are not alone. The God of Joseph, Job, Moses walks with you. Hold fast to hope. Trust in the story that is still unfolding. The same power that carried them through their darkest hours will carry you too. Let their courage inspire your next step. The dawn is closer than you think.